I found this CD in a used CD store in Amsterdam, like 10 years ago or something like that. And had Where or When and My Funny Valentine and Lord's Prayer. A Lord's Prayer? How did that end up there? Oh my God, I listened out. Oh my gosh, it's Pam. So I heard it. You do that so well. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And thank you, Stephanie, for that wonderful reading. Stephanie's going back to Vienna for a while, but you'll be joining us in the fall again, and we'll be doing...
In the spring.
In the spring. Yeah, what am I talking about? The spring.
Yeah.
I was thinking spring and said fall. That happens. And you'll be doing a show with us. We're looking at doing the Bell of Amherst with Stephanie as a fundraiser. Not fun, but fun. Where the community comes together and has a great time. So that scripture that Stephanie shared with us is a powerful one, but it's one that is considered by a lot of people to be perhaps a noble exercise, but not really workable. Like, love my enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Sounds lovely. That's really hard though, isn't it? Yeah, I've been doing this work a long time, and I still find it really difficult to know that those who seem to be persecuting me are, lovely people. You say in unity, I behold the Christ in you, you son of a... But our elder brother never gave us a teaching that was impossible. It might seem really difficult, but it's not impossible to do this. Difficult, yeah, it's very difficult to do, but we have done it. So if we have done it, then we can do it continually. If the spiritual path was an easy one, we would have this, like, we could be here for like a month and say, oh, you got it, see you later. Now go to the Charlie Brown movie. It would be easy to do, but that's why we come here every single week. Well, those of us who, do come here every single week. But it's really easy to fall out of the habit, isn't it? One Sunday you go, oh, I want to stay in, I really need to watch Meet the Press today. I mean, I just feel called to Meet the Press in bed with my coffee. So, and then the next week, Sunday goes on. If you don't show up, you get out of the habit. But what happens is when we come here, our lives, we go, well, my life is going well. I don't have to go there today. So we can move from being okay or pretty good to being great all the time by coming to remember the truth of who and what we are. As practitioners of spiritual truth, we know for our lives to work the way that we need them to, we have to do things that are often uncomfortable and even downright painful to the ego. I mean, the ego hates the spiritual crap. It just hates this. I don't want to get up on Sunday. I want to sit here with coffee and meet the press. I don't want to go. Okay, fine, I guess I got to go. And we come and go, I'm really grateful that I came today because there was something I really, really needed to hear. You tell me that all the time online. I needed to be here because I really need to remember this one point that you shared with me. The ego resistance is temporary. The more our souls and spirit know that life is good, the ego says, okay, fine. But we'll go to brunch afterwards and we'll have my coffee later and we'll go to the movie. Okay, deal. Okay, fine. But the ego can get in the way of the healing work very often because we need to remember, here's the power. I need to replug, as I said a few weeks ago, we need to replug into our energy source, which is not out there, it's inside. It's within us. In our new thought philosophy, Christmas is a time of preparing our souls, our spirits, for the birth of our true God self into the outer. Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic, wrote, what good is it if Mary gave birth to the Christ, but I don't also give birth within me, in my time and in my place? So it's a continual process of rebirthing the God being that we are consciously all the time. We have to remember, because the planet tells us we are not this. But inside we know the truth. The preparation time of the birth is called Advent. A couple weeks ago we celebrated the first Advent, which was hope or faith. Last week we did the Advent theme of peace. And today is the Advent theme of love. Advent means arrival. It means arrival, specifically the arrival of something that we've been waiting for that is absolutely huge. It's Momentous. An adventure, that's where the word comes from. An adventure is something is arriving, is coming, we get excited about it. Like a 5-year-old waiting for Santa is momentous. Remember that? It's like one of the best times of our lives, is waiting on Christmas Eve for that to happen. Like my dog waiting for a treat after her walk. It's her day. She doesn't understand TV. She can barely understand what I'm saying. So coming in for the walk, her life is built around getting that treat. And if I'm too slow, she'll start smacking my ankles. If I'm really slow, she'll bite the top of my feet. Hurry, 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 hurry. So we all have what's momentous for us and for her and for Luther, I'm sure. It's that treat. For most of us, it's waiting for Downton Abbey next month. What's going to happen to Lady Mary? Lady Edith, oh my gosh, we're so excited. Meditations should be an adventure. If we're not excited about our meditation, we're doing something that is not quite right. People often say, I don't know how to meditate. I just feel like I'm in a dark room yelling even in my head to a God that doesn't seem to be answering the phone. So I'll do it for a while. I just feel anxious in the dark, then I'll just go do something else because I really don't know how to do this. For my meditation to work, I discovered years ago that when I stopped thinking of God waiting, or for me waiting for God to pick the phone up, I pictured myself as a child anticipating the joy and the gratitude that was going to be coming through me. So I knew that meditation was real fun, real exciting. And I needed to reconnect with that feeling for the meditation to work. So let's try it. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to sit a little forward. I don't want your back to touch the back. It should be like a child waiting and listening and really hearing. So close your eyes and go within and feel the excitement of knowing you're receiving something very important and very exciting. Take a breath in. Hold it for a second and release. Blow it all the way out. Breathe in joy. Hold it and breathe out. Breathe in again. And breathe out. And as you continue to breathe just normally, focus on your breathing. And I want you to bring into your mind's eye, into the movie screen of your mind, I want you to bring the best Christmas or the best holiday you have ever had. Let Spirit bring that. Don't try to think about it. It's just like Spirit within you reveal what that is. Now, if the holidays were always awful, then picture a time that was wonderful. You don't have to stay with that. Just let your Spirit choose something else. So in the movie screen of your mind, see the colors and the lights and the surroundings. See the detail of that wonderful, wonderful day, that wonderful moment. Recall how happy, how joyful you were. Recall how in the flow of good you were. Recall the smells, the people around you, the smell of the people around you. What was that? Just be there with it. Recall how safe you were. Recall how loved you were. Center into that love. Breathe that into every breath. Breathe it into your muscles, into your skin. Breathe it into your cells. Every atom of your mind and your body is filled with this very holy, very sacred moment that Spirit gave you. Keep breathing. Give thanks for this memory and keep it with you as you take a deep breath and open your eyes. That's meditation. It's that simple. Picture a joyful moment, center yourself on that, and then bring that into your outer day. You can do it at walking, you can do it reading, you can do it on the subway. It's not magical, it's natural. Most of us have at least one good holiday memory. Even if we're adults, we didn't have a good childhood perhaps, and we have one good holiday memory. Most of my childhood Christmases were a combination of disastrous and good, or good and disastrous, as I used to call it. From the time I can recall, my mom always had nervous breakdowns around the 22nd of December and lasted till around the New Year. When the tree came down, so did she. Oh, good. We're back to normal for us. For many years, I remember my dad and I were visiting her in mental hospitals for the holidays. And then we would go to my grandparents afterwards to open presents. It's funny what the memory brings to us. I was remembering those times. And the most important memory for me, because my mom was kind of zombie-ish, she was on drugs and she was calmed down, but she was not totally present. What I was present for was they had petit fours. The mental hospital on Christmas had petit fours, and I remember just eating them until my father said, "You're going to get sick," so put them away for a little bit. But that was where my focus was. The joy was on petit fours. And to this day, I like petit fours, even though I don't eat sugar or flour anymore. But when I see them, I feel happy because that's my Christmas memory of zoning into something that gave me a little bit of joy at that time. Now, I didn't understand it then, but I just felt enormously sad on one hand that she wasn't home, and I felt in some ways enormously grateful that she wasn't. But as I got older, I saw that Mom, her life was a life right out of a Dickens book. She was truly a Dickensian character in so many ways. She was the product of a rape, and her 15-year-old mother's boyfriend would burn her with cigarettes continually until her biological grandparents told the girl, "Give her up. This is not healthy." The girl finally gave Mom up when she was 5. And the family that took her in was very cold, very New England, very blue blood. The father hardly ever spoke to her. And her adopted mother told her that at least twice a week, that if she didn't behave, she was going to be sent back to the orphanage. She was never totally sure about what a good behavior was or not, because it changed depending on what Mabel was feeling that day. Now imagine living life where you could have everything taken away from you, pulled out from underneath you at any moment just because you behaved in a way that was not acceptable, but you weren't totally sure what that acceptability was. So every day was anxiety-laden for my mom. I was always anxious about being sent back, and then she was told, her sister was told, "If you don't behave, we're sending Carol back." So, not only did she have to behave, she had to worry about her sister behaving in the right way. All through adulthood, she would do what her mother told her to do, even as a married woman with her own children. You know how a baby elephant is tied to a little peg, and as it grew up, it would just pull the peg out? It didn't think it could pull the peg out because when it was a baby, it couldn't. The same with my mom. She always felt she had to make her mother happy. She was afraid, so afraid of losing her mother's approval. My grandmother was not a very nice person. She was not a very pleasant person to be around. She called me the product of a mixed marriage, Italian and white. Molto bene. When there was a disagreement between my dad and my grandmother, which happened every other day, my mother would shut down and have an emotional breakdown. She could not respond. When I was 9 months old, Dad rushed me to the hospital with meningitis, and I almost made transition a couple of times at the hospital. But I did survive, as you can see. But with the top third of my hearing destroyed from the disease. My mom never came to the hospital. She didn't bring me. My dad had to call a cab and go down. Because when I got sick, she collapsed once again in absolute terror and fear. Couldn't even visit me. Didn't see me till I got home. When my mom did finally stop breaking down for the holidays, it was only a matter of time on Christmas Day before something would set her off. And anybody here relate to any of this? Can anybody? Yeah, okay, I'm sure our families probably are kind of similar in some ways. But it only took a word. We weren't quite sure who it was going to come from. Me, my stepsister, my stepfather, the dog. It could be anybody, just a wrong word or wrong bark. And all of a sudden, the tree would be knocked over, the presents smashed, the dinner tossed out the window sometimes, or any other violent reaction that were her inner fear and abandonment issues kicking into high gear. With Mom, if something was not wrong, something was wrong. She thrived and lived on anxiety because it was the only energy she understood. So if everything was very peaceful, it wasn't for very long. For a great deal of the time in my childhood, I felt abandoned, I felt lost, I felt alone, even though I always had people around me. Mom was always sick, she was always in bed, she never got up in the morning, and Dad was just emotionally checked out. I even asked her every once in a while, I think every 6 months I would ask her, am I adopted? She'd say, no, you are not adopted. I want you to get that out of your mind. I was really hoping I was. Isn't my family rich and wealthy in Wellesley somewhere? Let me go back to my rich family. I think I became an actor largely because portraying another person was like taking a vacation. Taking a vacation from this anxious one named Paul. If you're an actor, I think you understand, right? It's just like, oh yeah, you know, I found great peace and joy in being someone else besides this person. I think if you're human, you understand that. Sometimes we just need to get away from ourselves in that way. Now, I read something the other day as I shared. This talk was just not coming to me. I knew what it was. It was dancing around me, but it was not being very clear until I walked by a newspaper box. And you'll probably see it now that I've mentioned it if you haven't yet. That tied so much of this together for me. It was an amazing revelation. Researchers have discovered that emotional trauma can be passed on through your DNA. You can literally inherit not only your physical traits and medical conditions, but emotional memories and feelings from your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents. This is astonishing. This is such big news. For example, if a family member lived through the Holocaust, you were born here but you had family in the Holocaust, those traumatic stored memories may be in you as well. You may be depressed or anxious or feel something that you have no idea why. But your family went through that and it was impressed in their cells and it was passed on from their DNA into your DNA. Bringing fears and thoughts that might baffle you in so many ways. After all, you did not go through that. But it turns out you did. Because it was downloaded into your DNA hard drive, if you will. It was installed like Microsoft Word. And you got it. Now, it doesn't have to be. Please hear, they were saying, you know, this doesn't have to be that you feel it at all. And even if it is in you, it may not manifest in you in that way. But if you have thoughts and feelings that do not seem to be a part of your experience here on the planet, it could be a genetic gift from your ancestors. If you have depression and anxiety and you have no idea why, it could be it was passed on to you. Maybe you skipped a generation, maybe you don't see it in your parents, but it may have been your great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents. And somehow it got into your consciousness. The scripture writers knew this intuitively when they wrote in Exodus 34. The Lord is merciful and gracious, but keeping steadfast love for the thousandth generations, but visiting the iniquities of the parents upon the children and the children's children and the third and fourth generation. What it's saying is that this DNA, they had no name for it. They thought it was just this sin that was passed on. But what it was the fear and the error thought being passed on in the DNA to each generation. Now, it does seem a little unfair for the relatives of the person who was in error to pass this on to us, doesn't it? It's like, wait a minute, I didn't want this. It wasn't anything I asked for. Error thinking is impressed into your DNA. So it could be, if you have children, that what you went through, the trauma you went through as a child or in your life, was passed on to them as well. It isn't anything we did consciously. In New Thought metaphysics, every challenging idea, every challenging issue that we come up against in life, we know is an opportunity to heal. Everything that we're going through, every challenge is a birth, is a birth of our power into a new life. So if you're going through anything, this is an opportunity for you to be able to release it. Healing is the righting of a thought or belief that God is not the only power in the universe and in my life. If it is in our DNA, it can also be released from our DNA. I'm sure as I was sharing this DNA revelation that you were thinking about your own beliefs, your own feelings, your own thoughts that you inherited from your family. I'm sure you probably checked out a few minutes ago. What were you saying? Yeah, because we begin to think, what is it that I received from my parents, from my grandparents, from those that I never even met? What were you genetically given, for example, as an immigrant? My parents, my grandparents were all immigrants. They were from Italy. They were called garlic eaters. You had to stay over there. My dad my dad can't remember his childhood. It was so traumatic for him. He's blotted it out until from age 10 and before. My aunt has shared with me a lot about how discriminated they were as Italians. They could not sit near the Irish people. They had to be sat somewhere far away. So when my grandmother said I was a mixed marriage of Italian and white, she meant that literally, in her own mind. As an African American, how many generations have been beaten and killed, and how much of that is within to be released to say, I am a perfect, wonderful child of God? How many of us come from families that have been abused, wherever they were, and we wonder, what's going on within me? It's just an opportunity for me to know now, this was given to me, but I can release it back to God. I can give it back to the universe and know that I am a perfectly whole child of God right now. So in preparation for the best holiday yet, I invite you to love the people who didn't know that they were passing on to you these lovely gifts, or had no choice in their own healing journey of doing this. They weren't meaning to pass their fears on to you, but we received them anyway. My mom made her transition a few years ago, and I know that she's been doing a major soul cleansing on the other side. I know the reunion with her birth mom and her adopted mom must have been a major event over there. Must have been really an interesting experience to go through. But when you go to the other side, you know that it's only about love. It's only about the journey that we're on here. But they somehow made an agreement in their lives to go through this and to see, can we heal through this? Because we're all children of God and we can. In our reading earlier, Jesus mentioned loving our enemies. I would like us to meditate on this week. What if my enemy, what if our enemy is the inherited DNA stuff that seems to have gotten in my way and in your way for so many years? What if the enemy is just this idea that's been lurking around inside that I really do have the power to release but never thought I could? What if the anxiety or the fear or the depression that I've been holding can finally be released? Can be given back to the universe so it is not mine anymore? I let it go, and I take a new idea, a new thought. Myrtle Fillmore years ago said, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. A child of God inherits the power, the love, the joy, the peace, the strength of God. The human stuff came through this physical embodiment, but it's not permanent. It can be released. So today, in preparation for a healthy, joyful, prosperous holiday season, know that we may have been given a limited idea genetically, but now I release them as not inherited from creative spirit, but from a limited planetary fear. That's all. I received it from the planet, and to the planet, I give it back. I do not call it mine anymore. Today, I disavow any idea or a thought, fear, or lack consciousness from my blood relatives. They passed it on, but I do not any longer keep it as a gift. I'm bringing it back to Saks. I'd like to return this for something a little better. I want something that fits. Love, joy, peace, success, full abundance. So this week in your meditation, I want you to write out and give back to the universe, here's what I disavow. I may have taken this from my relatives, but I do not keep it in my life any longer. I let go of anxiety, I let go of depression, I let go of addiction. I let go of anything that seems to be keeping me from remembering that I'm a perfect, wonderful child of the universe. Successful, joyful, peaceful, happy. So I let go and I take a new idea, a new thought, a new way of loving myself, a new way of looking at myself in place of the fear, anxiety, low self-worth, self-sabotage, or emotional paralyzation I have been living up to this point. Today I forgive myself for my perceived weakness, and I forgive my family for not knowing any better for what they passed on to me. They didn't know. we let it go. If they knew better, they would have done better, right? But they were working with this in their own DNA as well. Now that we know the truth, we can say, I let this go. I give it back to the universe. I disavow any of this because it is not mine. I do not take personal ownership of any of this anymore. We allow the power of divine love to cleanse the cells in our being, to release the fear and the limitation that was passed on to us. And then as our brother shared, you are perfect as God is perfect. Perfect means complete. It means whole. It means strong. It means everything of God is already here. There's nothing missing, nothing we have to get from outside of ourselves. And that is the ultimate truth of you as a creative spiritual being. You have everything within you at this very moment. There's nothing you have to beg for. Just say, yes, I accept it. And I release this part that is not working for me. Never has. I bless everybody who came before me who went through that. Imagine what it was like to have gone through all that. Now I bless them and I release them. I know they're on the other side and they're healing as well. So I invite you to let love bring healing into your life right now. And the God being that you really are is coming forth right now, getting ready for the best holiday ever. So close your eyes, breathe in, and let go.